Alright, hey guys, welcome to my channel and to my second video. Hopefully the audio is a lot clearer in this one. It's a pretty nice day out in Auckland today. Well, it's alright, so I thought I would come out for a ride, chuck the GoPro on and talk some more shit. Today I wanted to talk about whether or not I think the Iron 883 is a good beginner bike or not. I just wanted to give you my kind of opinion. It's not going to be a very technical review. I'm not going to get too in depth about the the bike specifications and all that. A noob point of view of this bike for a beginner. And I think there are a lot of people out there that don't really know a whole lot about bikes but want to get into them. But yeah, so is the Iron 883 a good beginner bike? The answer is honestly yes and no. So what I mean is, if you are a beginner with no experience on bikes and you've just got your license, there's better beginner bikes that you could get, to be honest. If you're not fully confident, and this probably isn't the best bike to get straight away. But I mean, if you've had a little bit of experience riding dirt bikes or something like that, then you might pick this up and think it's absolutely fine. Now the first bike that I actually got was the Street 500, which is even smaller than this, obviously. And that was a really beginner-friendly bike. The engine was smaller, but I mean, the frame was smaller. The seat position was lower. When I came to a stop on the 500, my feet were, flat on the ground, whereas on this, I'm kind of tippy-toeing. But that said, I'm pretty short, so don't let that put you off. But yeah, so what's good about this bike for beginners? I guess if you really want a Harley for your first bike, then this is probably the place to start. This or the 500. This is sort of like their entry-level bike. It's definitely smaller than their other bikes. So this bike has the 883cc engine. And honestly, I feel like that engine is definitely powerful enough for a beginner. I never seem to have any problems with, not having enough power. I can be on the motorway and, be cruising along at 100 kilometers an hour and still have plenty of power left to overtake if I need to. Whereas I feel like the 500 definitely kind of loses its wow factor quite fast. I started on that bike and I was totally happy, but it only took about a few months before I was bored of it. And that might just say something about me, not the bike. Maybe I'm just impatient. But yeah, I mean, this engine has kept me happy for 7 or 8 months now, and now the seat position on this bike is actually quite low, which is good for beginners, because so I'm 5'7", and I can almost touch the ground flat foot. So if you're anything over 5'7", you're going to be fine. Anything under, then yeah, you might struggle when you're stopping at traffic lights or whatever. But I suppose on the other spectrum of that, if you're over, say, 6'5", then your knees are probably going to be pushed up into your chest, and you're not going to be very comfortable. Now, I want to talk about the weight of this bike, because I believe it's about 250 kgs. I'm pretty sure it's somewhere around that. And honestly, that's quite heavy. I have dropped this bike once. It actually happened to me the other day while I was filming. So yeah, so 244 kgs. And to be honest, I picked it up pretty easily. I think I kind of went into panic mode and just got some crazy strength from somewhere, but I picked it up alright. But I definitely think, if you're smaller or if you drop this bike, you're going to have a hard time picking it up. That's opposed to, if you have a Kawasaki Ninja or something like that, something a bit lighter. So it definitely makes this bike a little bit harder to maneuver when you're going slow, when you want to kind of walk it around or when you want to do a slow turn. It can be a little bit hard. The other thing I should probably mention is if you are a beginner biker and you're on your learner's license, and you can't legally ride this bike in New Zealand. I'm not really sure how it is in different countries, but yeah, in New Zealand, this bike is not learner approved. But yeah, I find that the riding position on this bike is quite comfortable. You're not too leant over, you kind of sit up nice and straight. And the seat's actually quite comfortable. It does get a little bit painful when you go on longer trips with it. I took it on a 6-hour trip a few weekends ago. Man, my butt was killing me. But I mean, for 1 to 3 hour rides, I honestly think it's a great seat. So when you're comparing the Street 500 to the Iron 883, I would have to say the Street 500, definitely the easier bike to ride, definitely more beginner friendly. But you've also got to keep into consideration, is the 500 going to be enough to keep you happy? Because if you get that 500, let's say you buy it brand new, and after 4 months you're bored of it, you've automatically just lost, quite a bit of money. You're not going to make that money back that you spent on it. So you're going to be out of pocket when you do decide to go up a little bit. So I would definitely keep that in mind if you're someone that tends to get bored easily. In that respect, I think the Iron 883 is more of a long-term investment for a beginner bike. Ooh, I just got a biker nod. That's a nice view. Yeah, what else can I say about this bike? Yeah, I honestly just think it comes down to what you want in a motorbike. Obviously 883cc is a decent sized engine, but because of the manner of this bike, 883cc doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be crazy far. If you compare this to, like a sports bike that has an 883cc engine, the sports bike is obviously going to be a whole lot faster, because that's just what they're designed for. But yeah, anyway, so let me just go through the pros and cons of this bike from a sort of beginner perspective. I'd say the pros is definitely the looks. I think this is a great looking bike, and I think that's what attracts a lot of people to it. It sort of has that rough kind of bobber look to it already, and then you can just customize the hell out of these things. There's so many aftermarket parts, and I think that also attracts a lot of people. You can kind of make it your own bike. I mean, it's a pro and a con, depends how you look at it. Pros, if you're a beginner, 883cc is heaps to keep you happy for ages, I reckon. And even then, if you do get bored, I'm pretty sure you can convert it to a 1200 engine. Other pros, having the low seat is quite nice if you're a shorter person. It makes handling the bike a bit more manageable. And what about the cons of this bike? The heaviness of it. Yeah, like I said, this bike is about 250 kgs. So if you're a smaller person and you drop this, you're going to have a hard time picking it up. And it does make it hard to maneuver in tight spaces and when you're going slow. I guess the fuel tank is a little bit of a con. It doesn't hold a lot of petrol. I'm not sure on the exact kilometers or miles per tank that you get out of it, but for me it seems to be about 150 to 200 kilometers. I think 150 k's is about when the light comes on, and that's normally when I put petrol in it. And to fill the tank up costs me about $14, but that's using the 95, which is like our premium petrol. And like I said, the engine could also be considered a con to some people. It's not the fastest out when you compare it to some of the other Harleys and when you compare it to a sports bike. But if you're looking for a bike that just looks awesome and you want to just go on nice cruises with it, then I definitely would recommend this bike. But yeah, so I guess if I could go back in time to when I was just about to grab my first bike, honestly probably I wouldn't have bought that Street 500. And just because I lost a bit of money when I traded that in to get this one. And I don't think the 500 is grunty enough. But yeah, that's honestly just my personal opinion. There's going to be people out there that think the 500 is more than enough. And then there's going to be dicks out there that say that bike is for pussies. Hell, there's even people out there that say this bike is still a girl's bike. So the handling on this bike, I think it handles around corners pretty well. I think you can definitely lean it in there nicely. I've never actually scraped the pegs on it or anything like that. There's the police. And there's delicious ice cream. So another thing I would suggest if you are looking at getting your first bike is definitely go have a look at what the competitors have to offer. There's a lot of other great bikes that look quite similar to Harleys, and they're like half the price of a Harley. Kawasaki Vulcan comes to mind, or Honda Shadow. Yeah, there's lots of other bikes that'll be a lot cheaper and look very similar to the Harley. But yeah, to sum up guys, I personally think this is a good beginner bike. It's a little bit on the heavy side, but other than that, it's great. It's got enough power to keep new people entertained for quite a while, I think. If you want an awesome looking cruiser that's comfortable and has, you know, just enough power to have some fun with, then I'd definitely recommend this bike. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this one up and head home. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you next time.